Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tom Sydney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Psych Club, the Tom Numbers Show, news with Tom Numbers and top of your game. And I've got a man that has been at the top of his game for a long, long time. Former world #1, world champion, basically the face of you and Barry Hearn, Steve Davis, basically kind of put snooker on the map, really. So welcome to the show, Steve. It's a pleasure to have you, buddy.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on, even though, as I've mentioned before we started, I still don't really know what, why, how, when, exactly what it is I'm going to now be talking about.
Well, we're going to talk about, obviously, yourself, about snooker, music, other interests you've got, and we'll just kind of go with the flow on it. But the theme that will be kind of peppered into it, which you're wondering, you're like, the interesting parts, like, what's this? And we've got Barry Hearn to thank for this. So Barry, you're a mutual friend. So thank you for getting this me and Steve together. So I'm called Tom Numbers, and it kind of grew out of necessity in lockdown, really, Steve, to be fair. I stumbled across something. I was kind of guided to something, and the kind of light bulb went on in my head. And I figured out that simply there's a numerical code that's been used for centuries, millennia, really, but they don't really teach it in schools, and it's called gematria, which is a form of numerology. But it's very simple, but it's also, as with things that are simple, they're beautiful and elegant, and probably the most complex as well. So A is the first letter of the alphabet, so it equals 1 numerically. B is the second, so it equals 2, C 3, all the way through to Z or Z, 26th letter. And you can add up the numerical value for words, names, places, people, and it reveals some interesting things. So I'll do one with you, just kind of set the tone. So Steve in numbers, you mentioned when I just did a show with Steve Forsyth, you had a look at that. Obviously, you've had a look at the one I did with Barry. So Steve in numbers is 71, if you add it up. So S is the 19th letter, T is 20, E is 5, V is 22, E is 5. And then Davis is 55, but you add them together comes to 126. Now, the word snooker, which really did put you on the world map, snooker is 97, which is also the word beautiful. You know, there's the beautiful game of football, there's a beautiful game of snooker. And then Q is 29. But if you do snooker Q, 97 plus 29, it comes to 126. And Steve Davis, Steve 71, Davis 55, comes to 126. So snooker Q 126, Steve Davis 126. So I thought it'd be a nice little bit of commonality of how the numbers, you get these nice little kind of aha moments and Easter eggs that kind of pop up along the way. So that's what it's about, Steve. So it's really about you, but it's just kind of peppering some extra little bits that are interesting along the way. So
Go for it.
Brilliant. So it's nice to start at the beginning when I get a guest like yourself. Barry's told me a little bit about it, but I thought I'd get it from the horse's mouth. How did you two get together? Because you basically, both the two of you, are kind of the original. I mean, there's all the other boys that joined on board as well, but you two are the kind of figureheads, really, that put UK snooker, world snooker on the map back in the 80s, you know? Yeah,
well, I totally disagree with that rewriting of history that is now becoming something, because BBC put snooker on the map.
Okay.
And maybe you can work some numbers into this, but not in the moment. I don't know how much research you need. So at some stage when BBC was able to be shown in colour, they wanted something that was going to be good to show off the new colour TV. And Pot Black, which was something that started in 1969 at roughly the same time, was instrumental in making snooker really popular throughout the 70s until it took off in the 80s. We have, I believe we have BBC to thank more than any one individual. But if there was one individual to thank over and above Barry Hearn, who is now being credited, and me credited with putting snooker on the map, the person who maybe did, who was head of, I think, BBC Two Sport at the time, of BBC Sport, on the committee that made decisions was Sir David Attenborough.
Was it?
So David Attenborough apparently, and I'm on slightly shaky trade, but I believe it's signed off Pot Black to be one of the vehicles for showing colour TV, for showing snooker and showing off colour TV. So we all have him to thank for it. And some bloke in India who claims to have wrote the rules of snooker. Being in the right place at the right time was Andy, and Barry Hearn was tremendously successful in getting more people to like the game. But it's not Barry. And I'm sorry, Barry, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're not. It wasn't you that put snooker on the map. It was Sir David Attenborough.
I didn't know that, Steve. I didn't know that. That's very interesting, actually, because I mean, I guess I'm speaking a little bit from my own perspective, because I remember when I was a young kid, of course, watching you play against all your great rivals in the 80s and over the bank holiday, and going to the Monday, and so okay, well, I didn't know that.
The other thing would be that there would be lots of people that were watching snooker in the 70s, and the reason they watched was because of Alex Hurricane Higgins. And he was a very, very important part of snooker's growth because he was such an exciting player. Yeah. And so throughout the 70s, he was the person, to some degree, that we all claim held it together and kept a little bit of interest bubbling.
Okay. Yeah. Hurricane. Yeah. Alex. Yeah. Bless him. Wow. So you've got music as well. Actually, you know what? Talking of colours, so I didn't know the thing about the broadcasting with the colour TV. That makes perfect sense, though. They needed something visual, and obviously you've got the beautiful green table, the cloth, and then you got obviously all the colours around. So what? Okay. This is something else I'm going to just add. All right. So you've got 15 reds, and then you've got 6 colour balls, and then you've got the cue ball. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the only thing in the world where red isn't a colour.
Right. Okay. Yes. Thank you. I'm glad I've got to get the technical term. I'm glad I got Steve Davis in the room to correct me on that. Yeah.
The other colours. Yeah.
The other colours. So you've got the other colours. So you've got 6 of them, and then you've got the 15 reds, which aren't technically colours. So if you do 15, add 6, that comes to 21. Okay. Now, you were the first, well, probably maybe back in the 70s era, but you can correct me on this. So your 147 break, was that the very first one on television?
First televised, yeah.
Okay. Now, 147 is a really great number. It's in numbers, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. It comes to the trump card, so it's the trump card of snooker. You can't get any higher than that for 147 break. But going back to you, Steve Davis 126, snooker cue 126. So you've got the snooker cue, and then add 21, all the other balls except for the cue ball, that comes to 147. So you've got that embedded in the game as well. So these are things I know. This is how my brain works and how I see things, So I'm wearing my 88 t-shirt here because it's 88 is a beautiful number. You see it on a lot of the 888 probably on a lot of the bettings and things like that. But it's a special number. So what was so I'm going to ask you this. So do you have a favorite number? Just, it doesn't have to be snooker related. Do you have a favorite number that you resonate with in any way?
No.
Okay. Other than 147.
Well, the 147 is a number that's just sort of part of my life.
Yeah.
It's sort of but any other number. When I was at school, I used to think I was good at maths and that was my best subject.
Okay.
So when I then had to take O-levels, I passed maths quite, I got my best pass in maths. And then when it came to A-levels, I assumed that I was going to continue to do maths. I did maths and I realized I hated it. And actually, if ever I've done IQ tests, those, whatever they are.
Yeah, intelligent quotients, yeah.
Whatever they are. It's reported back that I'm more words than numbers.
Are you?
So I don't think you. I mean, whether they're right or not, I don't know. But I'm not as fascinated by numbers as you are. But there again, I don't think many people are. But also, I don't think I'm as fascinated by having a favorite number. I haven't got a favorite color. I haven't got a favorite number. But
Okay.
I don't think they have a significance for me. The only two numbers that do seem to crop up a lot when I keep on looking at a digital clock.
Yeah.
I see the numbers 147 come up a load.
Okay.
I see the number 147 in a lot of times around, but that's of course I suppose because it means something to me and not to somebody else. And I also see the number that seems to happen more often than anything else is 2222 on a digital clock. Seems like I see this more than I should.
Yeah.
That's about, but it's not a favorite number. It's just I see it. I don't see 1111 as often as I see 2222 on a digital clock.
Wow. Are you into? So I'll just go straight for the. So
Jugular.
those, yeah, the joke, yeah. Why not? Let's just jump in. So quite often people call those recurring numbers angel numbers, and they think it is maybe something beyond kind of just the physical realm, maybe communicating with us, might be past loved ones, might be just you notice it just because it's like 147, you're going to notice that because it's important to you. But do you have any interest or thoughts about things like that? Like, okay, the recurring 222, is that, have you had any kind of thoughts on what that might be and why you notice it as opposed to not?
No, I haven't got an inquisitive brain left, a brain cell left in my body for this particular thing. No, I'd like to know where earworms come from in musically, how you get those, because
Earworms? What are earworms?
well, like a tune that you get that you start whistling and you go, why am I whistling that? And you think, well, I've not heard that. Where's that come from?
Right. Okay.
But
So it's
not
not necessarily like the last piece of music you heard it before you went to bed and you wake up with it. It's a unique piece of music.
it can be that. I think it can be sometimes you've heard it, you might have gone in a store to buy something and it happened to be playing and you don't know it was playing because you're not really switched onto it. But then the next thing is you find yourself an hour later whistling in it, and you may have forgotten you heard it. But there is sometimes an earworm, it just comes out of the blue and you go, how have I dragged that out of my brain when I don't think I've not heard that piece of music for a year. Where's that come from? How can my brain that's far cleverer than I'm using it for be able to do that? But I don't use my brain in a numerical way whatsoever, in my opinion.
Okay.
Or
you might be doing. Sorry, go on, Steve.
Whereas Barry Hearn is very interested in numbers, obviously as a chartered accountant.
Yeah.
With numbers.
Yeah.
My only since I left school, my only numerical thing was trying to work out if I could score enough points with different colours to get over the line in a frame.
Got you. Yeah. You know what? This might come as a little surprise because we've not known each other very long. We've known each other now. We're getting to know each other right now, which is great. But so I'm not a great mathematician, and I'm not a number cruncher. I guess the way that I see the numbers is they're almost like I notice synchronicity. So I notice things like the 222 on the clock and all that stuff, 147. I notice these things. I'll be thinking of a thought and two strangers I might be sitting on a park bench, two strangers walk past and they say the very word or name or phrase or sentence that I was just thinking. I've had that many times and I'm like, that's peculiar. So I'm like, something's going on. I'm trying. My thing is I just inquisitive. I just want to kind of figure out what's going on. And then I'm able to work out the numerical value of these kind of winks. And then I piece them together. So the numbers are almost like a thread, like a string for me to feed them on. One thing that's interesting is you talked about the 2222. So I mentioned a few minutes ago that if you do Steve Davis 126, Snooker Q 126, it leaves you with 15 reds plus the 6 colour balls, and excluding the cue ball. But if you include the cue ball, that's 22. So you've got 22 balls in total on the table. So you're seeing 2222. I mean, it's a big part of your life. 222 is also deal. It's MAGA. It's atomic number for gold, AU. So there's quite a few things. It's an important number. I even have that in my birthday. I don't have 2222, but I have 222, which is 15th of February 222. So I get those things. But you just brought up about earworms, and I didn't know what they were. So I've just worked it out. But lo and behold, and this isn't scripted, any of it. So the word ear comes to 24. We're in the year of 2024. It seems like it could be an important year. We've had quite a few crazy years since 2020. You know, it's been quite wacky. Worms, interesting enough, and I didn't know this. I might have done it a few years ago, but I completely forgot it. It comes to 88. 88 is, yeah, I don't know if you're a film buff. I love my films, Back to the Future and things, and this is from Back to the Future. You have to travel 88 miles per hour for time travel. 88 comes to purple, comes to Trump. You got Judge Trump in snooker. You got obviously Donald Trump in the US and politics and business, etc. He wrote that book, Art of the Deal. Deal's 22. You got Scotland, 88. Edinburgh, 88. Edinburgh, Scotland, 176, Back to the Future, November the 5th. But worms, I didn't know that. And if you do earworms, 112 comes to victory, and you had, you know, many, many victories throughout your life. Are you a Star Trek fan?
I've started to realise that I like the Orville far better than Star Trek.
The Orville? What's the Orville?
Have you not seen the Orville?
No, I know. You're not talking about Keith Harris's duck, are you?
No, I don't think the people who made the Orville knew about the duck.
What's the Orville? This is new to me.
The Orville is it's not a spoof Star Trek. It's better than Star Trek.
Is it?
I can't. It's like Star Trek, but it's not Star Trek. But it's funnier, and it's actually, in my opinion, obviously Star Trek fans will hate this, but I think it's better than Star Trek.
So it's an actual TV series, is it?
Yeah. It's had three. I think it's had 3 series. I'm wading through. I'm halfway through the 2nd series. It's very funny. My son put me onto it. It's so funny, but it's also true to Star Trek as well. Is it?
What do you like about it then, Steve? So, I mean, there's many comedies, you know, things you can just have a laugh, but it's got this element of Star Trek. What is it that resonates with you?
I would say that I think a lot of people enjoyed Star Trek and that thought of first contact and all of the problems.
Yeah.
But I think the Orville sort of goes a bit deeper into some of the things that would be with different species living together, and also first contact things. So I was quite a science fiction buff when I was a school kid. So I quite like that world. If I was going to read books, it's more sci-fi than anything else, as long as they're well written. So that would be my interest. You know, and talk about films, I would probably go, you know, Blade Runner's up there.
Blade Runner is 114, which is
well, okay. I was just thinking, your channel's not going to go down very well in Russia or France, is it? Or you know, all the numbers will be different. Is there somebody in France doing exactly the same show as you, but with different outcomes?
Well, my French doppelganger through the Orville Star Trek earworm loop. Yeah, there probably is, but I haven't found them. I haven't found them. You know what? Talking because people have asked that. They've said, "What, you know? Does it work the same way in other languages?" And I said, "Well, I don't study them all the time, but I do notice 1 or 2 things." So this is an interesting one. So you talk about France. France is actually in numbers is 47. She got the whole 147 thing. I'm going to say with Blade Runner is 114, which is frequency, which is history, which is trump card. If you do the Blade Runner, just for example, that would take you to 147. So it's interesting that, you know, Blade Runner is a thing of you. I love Blade Runner. You know, I think it's one of the...
You got an app that adds it all up?
I haven't, no, but I just do it in my head. I mean, I know, I have my calculator.
You should have an app out for all the people who watch the channel.
I should. Bazza, see, Steve's got to come up with a great idea because he's been saying numbers. And he's been thinking of ways we could. I was like, you're right. Yeah, an app. Yeah.
I saw towards the end of the show, I sort of flicked through the chat because I couldn't listen to it for very long because obviously I know Barry so well, I can't listen to Barry, and we know each other too well. But towards the end, you hooked him on something, and next minute he was a disciple. So now he's a follower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's easy.
I grabbed it. Yeah.
He's so easily led. I mean, it's just ridiculous how he's got through his life.
Oh, he's a brilliant one, isn't he, Basil? And you know what? The other thing. So I got him on this. So Barry Hearn is 110, and obviously he's the president of Matchroom and president of other things. He's been in his time with darts and snooker and other stuff. But he loved that one and Christmas. And he said because that was it. Right at the end of the show, he talked about we'll be lucky, have a great Christmas or something. He said every day's Christmas. And I went, Basil, 110 is Barry Hearn. 110 is Christmas, and he went numbers. Yeah, that was it. I remember. Yeah, I got him on that.
Well, I think it's quite good. I mean, he's over the years he's reverse engineered loads and loads of deals by making people realize what they want. But he's the one that's told them what they want. But in the end, they think that's what they want. So the fact that him and Christmas are the same number that you've engineered for him has just made him very happy. That basically he is Christmas.
He's Santa.
He is what he brings the presents to the kids. He would love that he was Santa.
Yeah. So we're talking of Santa. So Davis is 55, which is heaven, which is also December. You're not born in December, but it's also Santa. So you've got a connection as well. So ho ho ho, we could get you and Barry, the Christmas boys.
What can you say? I mean, it's. I want to have this. I just want this to be in French, so it's all gone tits up.
Bonjour, s'il vous plaît. Well, actually, talking in French, so you brought me back where we were. So what is okay? This is an obvious question.
I've got no numbers in my brain. I'm in a no number world. Oh well,
you've got you're fertile. That's good. You could just receive whatever, And like I said, I'm not a great mathematician.
I'm also too cynical.
Hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Don't have to be a believer. You don't have to be one of the monkeys. Hey, I'm a believer. Just be, just be whatever you want to be. But so you talk about French. So what? Okay, this is an easy question. But what in popular culture is known as the language of love?
That's the French language, is it?
Yeah, the French language. So when you spell the word love, L-O-V-E. So L is the 12th letter, O is the 15th, V is the 22nd, E is the 5th. You add all that up. That comes to 54. When you spell the word French, F is 6, R is 18, E is 5, N is 14, C is 3, H is 8. That also comes to 54. So it's like, someone knew that. Why is it, I don't know. I don't think I created this, Steve. Not some. But if I go down the Orville earworm, I might come out the other end and be like, it was me and Davis and Bazza, and we created the French language. I don't know. I'm going to have a look at that. Or let me have a look at this. How do we spell Orville?
It's written by Seth MacFarlane, who does Family Guy.
Is it Seth?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be good then. I didn't know about it. Oh yeah, it's him. Yeah. The Orville.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look at this because I don't. This is news. This is the thing. This is fun. You've told me a few. I didn't know any of this. So let's have a look at this. So the Orville. Here we go. O-R-V-I-L-L-E.
You need an app.
I do. Okay. Do you know why you like this show, Steve?
No, but I feel like you're going to come up with a hypothesis.
I am. So Orville,
right,
is 93 in numbers, which is my last name, which is Bushnell. The is 33, which is magic, which is gates. It's a bunch of things. Don, it's all kinds of stuff. Anyway, which is the Orville. Say again.
Which is 126, which is
Steve Davis.
What can I say to that? I want to say that's bollocks, but you've worked it out very quickly. So.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I'm in some sort of magic show where I'm being brainwashed a bit by
by her. You've been brainwashed by Buzzer.
And then somebody, and then somebody goes along to a show where there's a medium on, and they go, you know, is there anybody who's got anything to do with it? Is there a Julie in your life? And yeah, wow. And then a mate of mine did this, and he's convinced. But yeah, I feel like I'm being taken down the same road. No wonder I like the Orville. Of course, I would like the Orville.
Exactly.
What about the other people that don't add up to 126 who also like the Orville? Or is it?
Well, they can obviously enjoy it as well, but it's, I don't know. There's something that happens because it's all unscripted. Because I don't. I mean, I know my numbers, but then there's new ones that you've shared with me, and I just do it right here, and then I'm like, bingo! It's just something we've, and that's the magic of it. And I don't know how it all works. I don't, but I really love it, and I just enjoy it because for me, it's almost like a little bit of a kind of esoteric, conscious, dare I say, I don't know, spiritual or Orville-y periscope. It helps you kind of see around corners and connect dots, and that's why I enjoy it, because it's like, didn't know that, So snooker cue, I only did it just before I was getting ready. I was like, snooker cue, 126, Steve Davis, 126, and now you come out with the Orville 126, and I've never even heard of that show. Bizarre, isn't it?
I'm more speechless. I'm just speechless.
It's brilliant. And you know what? So I haven't mentioned this for a while, but there are certain words that do things as you go. So I don't even know the phrase for this. This is maybe something we can come up with in the app. But when you actually add up the letters, as you sequentially add them up, like I did with Orville, sometimes you get zingers all the way along that. And I'm going to share with you what those are. So as I was spelling out Orville, O's 15, R is 18, that comes to 33. So we've already spoken about that. Magic, gay, then you had 22, which is V. So you get to ORV, that comes to 55, which is Santa. December, we already talked about Christmas, it's Davis. Then you had the I, and that's 64, and that comes to Barry. So we've obviously been speaking about Barry. So that comes to 64. And then 64, what do we get to? O, R, V, I, L. Then we add L. L takes you to 76, a magic wand. We've talked about magic. But my name is Thomas, which is 76. You spoke about Orville being all about first contact, that sort of thing. The word contact is also 76. And then you add the second L, which is 12. That takes you to 88. And that's the one I'm wearing today. 88 miles per hour, Back to the Future. Trump 88, Scotland 88, Purple 88. I've done all that a few minutes ago. And then you add the E. And that takes you to 93, which is my last name, which is Bushnell. And then you do the Orville. That's 126. Snooker Q, Steve Davis, 126.
Yeah, wonderful, amazing. I just, isn't it great how many different types of people there are on the planet?
Yeah,
that I think is the beauty of this.
It is. It's
yeah. That we're all traveling along. We're all traveling along on this ball, right?
Yeah.
We've all got their own. We've all got. I'm addicted to watching at the moment on YouTube. I think if I just click on it, you won't go away, will you? I'm very. I wrote it down. I was thinking about would I watch your show?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't watch your show because there's something I prefer to watch on YouTube. Nothing personal.
Thanks, Steve. Fucking hell. It's like we've only known each other a few minutes. We're not a fan already.
Nothing personal. But
I'm pulling your cue, man. You know that. I'm teasing. So.
It's not personal, but you need to watch to try and work out what's going on number-wise for your own entertainment.
Yeah.
Vic Berger has a channel, and this particular YouTube video is called "The Absolute Very Best of Jim Baker" or Baker. Bakker. And this guy, like Bakker, Jim Bakker,
Yep.
and it is and you have to watch it. You'll have to watch the show. He's like, they're selling food to people that might want to buy a load of food for when the apocalypse happens in their bunker in America. And it's frightening that if anybody's buying this shit, it's brilliant. But this Vic Berger has made it into an art form. He's made a video that is it's an art installation what he's done with all of the TV footage. It's brilliant.
Wow, oh, that's another one.
Unfortunately, until I've watched all of the Vic Berger stuff of what he's done with Jim Bakker, I can't then come and watch to see more of the coincidences that you found. But then once I've exhausted them,
cheers, Steve. You can get your coat.
Well, when I've exhausted them, right, then I should come back, rewatch them, and then become a disciple like Barry.
There you go. Well, disciple. I'm trying to remember. I think that might be. Is that 97? I'm going to check what disciple is. I know apostle is 88, or apostles is 107. Quantum. I'll check what disciple is. I can't remember it. It might be 77. Right. But anyway, there you go.
During lockdown, is this what happened to you during lockdown?
Yeah. So
before this, you weren't down this rabbit hole. And now all of a sudden, your life has been upturned.
Yeah.
What's happened? I mean, I love the snooker, right? I didn't know it was going to be popular, but I got lucky that the thing that I became nutty about was, in the end, lots more people watched, and they all started to like it. This could happen to you, you know.
Thank you, Steve.
This could happen. This could happen in the future. In another 200 years' time, you're revered as this god who was so ahead of his time, and in 200 years' time, the whole of the world trade is operated on these things that you've come up with.
Yeah,
the deal is done. It has to work this way.
Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I think it. You know what? One thing I noticed. So the actual metrics on it. When I started doing this, you know, when you go on YouTube, you've got hashtags. You might not, like, you know, I'll have Steve Davis, snooker, Tom Numbers. We'll put that on the video. So back in the day when I first started doing it, I think it was like maybe 1,000 or 1,500 hashtags on gematria. So the word that is gematria, which is a form of numerology. Now it's up to like 8 point something.
Really?
And I think it will just exponentially start to grow, you know.
Yeah, during lockdown, I just drank beer and did a load of barbecues. But you did something constructive. I feel I'm wasting my life, and you've not wasted your lockdown. I mean, you may or may not. I didn't do any press ups, one a day until I built my press ups up. That I missed out on that. And then, but you did something. You did something constructive. I just wasted my lockdown.
Well, maybe you just needed to just enjoy it, and maybe, you know, if I'd have known you back then, I could have come around for a barbecue. I know Basil and Eddie did the old boxing in their garden, didn't they? They did, you know. What I did in the first, do you remember? Well, lockdown was 3 months of sunshine, I remember. And I just discovered London. I'd walk around everywhere. Then I got myself a bike. Then I get on the Boris bikes, and I just discovered, but still doing numbers in my head. And it kind of came to, so I can't really take all the credit for it, because for want of a better phrase or explanation, something was kind of guiding me. That makes sense. Something was intuitively guiding me. So I didn't know what gematria was. I kept calling it numerology, which is technically incorrect. You know, like you said about there's actually no red colours on the snooker table. It was like that as a technicality. I just called it numerology because I didn't know any better. And then I discovered about 3 months later that it was actually a thing, gematria, simple gematria. And then I didn't even like Q. I kept noticing this Q, like 17th letter. You've obviously got Q, different spelling in snooker. So I discovered these things as well. I was trying to figure out what was going on. And it's almost like something was just prompting me. Look at this, look at that. Ah, okay, figure this. And it was really quite joyous. It wasn't difficult. You know what the sticking block was? You know, you talked about you're going to do your YouTube show. You watch all that series and then you'll come over. I still had to learn. This was the sticking point for me. I had to learn because when I'd get the downloads 88, I'd get the downloads of information, but I'd still have to mechanically work it out on my fingers. I'd go, A is 1, B, I'd have to count it out. And then what I did is I realized, right, if I can get good at that, it took me maybe 10 days, maybe 3 weeks at maximum. So I could go, all right, Q is 17, R is 18, T is 20, Y is 25, B is 2. I could do it, you know, fluently. And that sped the process up really quickly for me. So if anyone is kind of, some people might do it. I was with Simon Jordan a couple of years ago, and he's like a calculator. He can just, I tell him what the word or the letter was, and then he could just add it up quicker than I could. So some people can do that part of it, and others can do connecting the dots, which is what I do. And that was the bottleneck. But once I got over that, it was like a key to another language, really. That's kind of what it was, you know. But the numbers kept coming. I kept getting the information. Someone doing the Orville. I was being Orville, Steve. And then I had to speed it up and actually do a little bit of work and be able to do A is 1, B is 2, C is 3 quickly in my head without doing it on my fingers.
You know? If you've got a counterpart in America, but you know, they're using, you know, say for the word color, which is, there's no U in color.
Yeah, color.
You have a fight over that. If you went to the trade convention there'd be a big fight over. It's a totally different meaning because there's no
like US rules versus UK.
Yeah,
I thought these things. I thought we could have like kind of celebrity gematria competitions, like, you know, face-offs.
Different.
So you're right though, and what I always go back to is so there's different versions of gematria, but A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. The clue's in the name, so it's simple English gematria. So I'm like, if it came to that, I'd be like, you know what? If you want to do the American spelling, by all means. I don't get kind of hung up on it, but because it's English, I just stick with the English spelling. That's kind of served me well, you know. But if someone wants to do a different spelling or different version, I'm like, knock your socks up, you know, that's fine. But if we were in a Barry Hearn organised event, then it would be English rules. It'd be English rules, Steve.
English rules, Paul.
It would be English rules, Paul. Yeah, exactly. Talking of, so the other one, so you've got in pool, I know you've got different versions of pool, but you've got the 8 ball in, you know, one version, and it's 88, but the word sport comes to 88. So it's interesting. It's like how these things, you know, they're always kind of right in front of us, you know.
That's whether you consider snooker a sport.
That's true. So what would you say? Is it a game?
Well, I was told once that if the commentators in the thing you're involved in whisper, it can't possibly be a sport.
Okay.
Well, I think they're all just games.
Got you. Yeah.
Everything's just a game. There's nothing is a sport. I think the word sport is very misleading as a piece of terminology, because you'll get people going, "Oh, that's not a sport. That is a sport." And you try to ask what are the definitions of a sport, and everybody seems to have their own idea of what is a sport. One of them would be, "Oh, well, you've got to be out of breath to be. You've got to be. Yeah, it's got to be physical." Okay, well, okay, and it's got to have some type of winning or losing part to it. So you then go, well, sort of Strictly Come Dancing would then qualify as a sport.
And a Saturday evening contest on BBC.
Yeah, chess or darts wouldn't, because you're not exerting any physicality into it in the way that some people would like that to be the case. So they will make their own mind up as what is a sport and what isn't a sport. So snooker's sort of, I just think it's a competitive game, and sort of sport out of the equation, then you don't have the problems of deciding what isn't a sport. Got you.
And even probably take it, maybe well, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of years ago, sport, you kind of got the imagery of gladiators. It was almost like, well, there's hunting, there's that element to it, like an exertion, but it's almost like a death component to it, isn't it? Either was it physically with humans fighting in the gladiator, cauldrons, or hunting, so there's maybe there's that sort of element to it that is even more visceral and harsh as opposed to a game.
the Olympic movement, yeah, everybody thinks, oh, that was what it was, throwing, jumping, as fast as you can. But apparently the
I just want to say the Olympic is 126, Steve Davis, just,
Okay.
The Orville, yeah.
It's the Orville.
Yeah,
Now,
the Orville.
I think the Olympic, I saw on QI once that the Olympics at some stage in the past used to have poetry as one of the disciplines.
Really?
And so the Olympics wasn't just gladiatorial type sports, apparently. So who knows? I don't know the number. I don't know what the number. I think, yeah, I don't know what the number of poetry would be, in as much as
Look.
how are you going to backwork that into it? Come on, give it your
best. Poetry. We've got my friend Mark Atwood. He's a poet, and Arnie used to write poetry. So poet, okay. Poet is 56. Poetry.
Make a case for poetry being in the Olympics.
So poetry is 99. Olympics is 112, which is Orville. No, hang on, what is it? No, what was it? The Orville. What did we say 112 was? I did it over here. Let's have a look. I know we've talked about 112. What was it? It was earworms. So Olympics is earworms. So I know that come up earlier, which is a victory, which is Star Trek. But the Olympics will be, I believe, 145, which is numerology. Yeah. So Olympics 93, Olympics is 112. The Olympics is 145, which is numerology, which is also 88 plus 77, Scotland plus 8. I wanted to say, actually, so music is 65, which is 7. Now, I know I asked at the beginning of the show that you don't have a favourite number per se, but I thought it was interesting just because music is 65 and you got the 147. That was the kind of little, it's not a bang on, but it's, a little bit of a connection there. And do you think, okay, how about this, Steve? You talk about colours. What's the name for this? I think one of the reasons I'm good at numbers is because I tend to think in colours. And this is something I've always done as a kid. So if someone said to me, okay, I remember there was a supply teacher in my senior school, and I don't know, there's about 29, 30 kids of us in the class. And she just asked the question. She said, what days? I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It might have been Monday. And I'm the only one that called out the answer. And everyone was like, what? What are you on about? So she referenced colours to names and places and days of the week. And I did as well. And I was like, so when I think of something, I kind of have some kind of, and it's not bang on, but it's a blend of colours that I kind of feel in my mind, which helps me remember certain things as well. I think what's it called? Sensory
synesthesia, is it?
That's it. Kinesthesia. Yes, it. Yeah. Do you have any of that?
Well, I don't think so, but I know many musicians who have.
Okay.
There are a few musicians that say that that's a load of bollocks, but there are many people in that world who see music as colours.
Yeah.
And I assume it's the same for what you're talking about. So, yeah, I have none of that. I've never seen. And if I was playing snooker, I don't think I've ever seen anything. I've not felt anything different happening in a surreal way. I would like to have known what our biggest genius, Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
He's the only person I would like to know what's going through his mind or what he sees when he's playing, because I think he's sort of, the rest of us, I think, I can understand the rest of the players.
Yeah.
But how Ronnie O'Sullivan plays, I wonder whether he sees different pictures to us.
Yeah.
So you see different pictures to me. I haven't got a clue what you're on about. And you are on a wavelength that I'm not. And I just go like that. Barry Ernst is different to me. And we're all floating along in our own little worlds. Yeah. But I tend to feel that me making music and playing music and enjoying music and me playing snooker, I'm pretty normal. Even though I was a winner, I'm pretty. But Ronnie O'Sullivan is unusual, and you would come under the unusual bracket, and I would feel that Barry Hearn comes under the unusual bracket. maybe the only reason why I don't think I'm unusual is because I know myself too well. Other people might think I'm unusual, but yeah, but you've ticked that box. So
thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, but
you know what? Sorry, go on.
Amazing. No, there's this thing about you. You see things. You're in a totally different. You've got that. You're rewired. You're totally wired differently. It's brilliant to me. You know, I'm not saying you're not wired wrong. You're just totally wired different, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So we're floating through life trying to get on with each other.
Exactly. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that, man. And well, I mean, you might be you say because you know yourself so well, people might have that perception of you. But the thing is, you are a winner, and you know, you want. One thing I wanted to ask about it was, and also before I ask that, one thing that popped into my head when you mentioned Ronnie, when you said, "I wonder what goes through his head." It'd be interesting to maybe ask him at some point. Maybe down the line he'll come on and
absolutely.
Talk about, you know,
I'm sure he'd be fascinated as well by. I think he would be really up for coming. I mean, whether he would trust. If I went to him, you got to go on that show because you might enjoy it. Yeah, you might actually experience. He wouldn't necessarily listen to me. Yeah. I couldn't swing it like Barry says. Oh, you go on that show, you'll enjoy the chat. You might not know where it's going to go, but you'll enjoy the chat. So I don't know if Ronnie would, but would he might do. You know, I would say, you
never know, do you?
Oh.
I'll ask actually, Ronnie, if you're watching this, if you get a chance to watch it, Steve or Barry sends it to you. So when you asked that question, Steve, you said, "I wonder what goes through Ronnie's head." This is just the thing that came into my mind, and I'll see if this resonates with Ronnie. I have a feeling there's times when he's you know, Super Ronnie and he's just knocking them down. I think there might be times where he's somewhere else in his head and he's not necessarily even that much on the game. Might be, you know, holidaying somewhere or whatever, doing any of the amazing Ronnie things. But there might be times when he's super drilled in and just, okay, I'm going to do that one, that one, that one. Be interesting to hear what he thinks, because I think he might go to 2 or maybe even 3 different places when he's on form.
Well, he certainly might go down a sort of route that you wouldn't expect. I don't know about going. I don't know about thinking about holiday. He might do, but I just think
there's just something remote, something like not connected to the game. So it might just daydream somewhere else, and he's just in a flow, and he's like, "Oh, that's gone down," and it's totally just pure natural instinct. But there might be other times where he's zoned it. So it'd be interesting to hear what you think. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'll go and tell him. Well, I'll tell him to watch the bit where he's involved in. He'll probably watch that bit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You talked about, so one thing I wanted to ask you, just from it's a question I've had in my mind before. So you talked about snooker not being maybe classed as a sport because it's not that physical exertion, but it's obviously got this mental component, and doing things with high intensity, high focus can be physically, energetically draining. Energy 74 actually, which is gematria, which is the numbers. So that's an interesting one. But with yourself, so because it's not a super physical game, and you're at the top of the tree for many, many, many years, is snooker, well, for you, because you can only speak for yourself, is it a point where you come to in your career and you're like, okay, there's not enough juice in there as I was in the earlier years? Because physically you could still play snooker, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I tend to think that what happens is why somebody goes off form and they're not as good as they used to be is a slow deterioration of your central nervous system.
Right.
But that was because maybe I was judging it by my own career. That when Stephen Hendry came along, and I think probably sort of played to a more modern day standard, that at one stage I was considered to be the best in the world, and the next minute Stephen Hendry was. Yeah. And somewhere down the line, throughout that period of time when that transition happened, I started to feel like I wasn't playing as well as I had done.
Okay.
There's 2 things. It's a confident. All sports are they're a confidence game. It's confidence, and that is more important than anything else. and then trying to sort of like resurrect a career from, you're not in the right place to do that. You're not the same animal as the one that came up and then was winning everything.
Yeah.
So then when Ronnie O'Sullivan came along and the standard got better, Stephen Hendry's confidence dropped.
Yeah.
Also getting older. So I don't know really which one but it could be that as you get older, all of a sudden your fine muscle control isn't as good as it used to be. So therefore, that is how I felt it all sort of unravels for the sports person, is they are slowly deteriorating. And you can hold back the tide with exercise and fitness regimes like does and that, but eventually there's going to be the new kid on the block's going to come along who's got more aggression in their body and drive and more passion. So those things do come into the equation, but I think it is firstly initiated by you don't perform as well, not the fact that you're bored with it or you're I can't bother to practice. I think the first part is that you lose that innate skill at the top class level, just a fraction. Or somebody else comes along with a better skill.
Got you. Okay. So it wasn't like an emotional sort of love for the game. It was it was purely a physical. Can I execute in the way that I used to?
Yeah. Or somebody came along and showed that they were better than you were ever.
Okay.
Standard gets better all the time, it feels. And then all of a sudden you're not in as confident a place. So therefore you don't like it as much. And then when you go out and play, you're not liking the experience as much. That's how I think probably it happens in individual sports, especially.
Got you. That's interesting. Yeah. Do you saying that then? Do you feel then that was the case with? So I know it's retrospective, but this is I'm sure you've done it many times. And you might, if you were, what years would you say that you were like the best of the best Steve Davis? What would you say that period was?
Late 80s, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I was buzzing in 87, 88, 89, and I started off the 90 season, won the first 2 ranking tournaments of the year.
Yeah.
Somewhere down the line, Stephen Hendry jumped up a couple of levels, and then from then on, I wasn't winning anywhere near as much. I won a few tournaments, but Stephen, I think, raised the bar, as did lots of other players then who came through, like the likes of John Parrott and Ken Doherty. The general standard became very high, a lot higher than it was, in my opinion. And as a result of that, I struggled to have it all my own way. But in 87, 88, 89, I felt like I was having it all my own way.
Right. Okay. So do you, if you were to do the mental gymnastics and say put the top of your game, Steve Davis in the late 80s against, say Stephen Hendry, when he was in his prime, then do you think he would have still had the raised standard, or do you think it would have been closer?
Well, I think you can only really be as good as you can in your own era. I think it's very hard to then reinvent yourself in another era, because you've got lots of learned behavior and you've done very well to get with. So I tend to think that in most games at sports that you see on TV, which are very popular, that we're seeing an evolution of the standard each decade. It gets better and better. So, but that's not to say that people are better. It's just that you can only survive in your own decade or era until another comes along. If all of the great champions of any particular sport were all born at the same time, that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
But that sort of doesn't seem to happen much. So, but yeah, but if it did, would I be able to have beaten Ronnie O'Sullivan and Stephen Hendry? Well, maybe I'd have had skills, of match play skills that would have negated Ronnie O'Sullivan's genius. Maybe if I'd have grown up in an era where Stephen Hendry was making more of his chances, I would have also made more of my chances. But I played with a certain style that was from the players around of the 80s and the 70s. That was the way the game was played, and new tricks hadn't been, the way about break building hadn't been sort of fully explored. But we played quite a tactical game in the 80s that then Stephen Hendry came along, made it, and said, well, this is about trying to win the frame in one visit. You've got to go for it. A bit like a golfer's got to go, not for the middle of the green, but a golfer's got to go for the pin now, because if they don't go for the pin, somebody else will. So you can't play percentage game anymore. At sport, you've got to be foot to the floor. So that's quite how I feel it's gone now. In all sports, it's much more on the edge now, because otherwise you're not on the edge, somebody else will be.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? The razor's edge.
Yeah.
The Blade Runner, right on the edge. I think it's interesting that would have been, to see all of you three playing in your prime against each other. I mean, my mind, as you mentioned that, it makes me think of, Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, obviously Andy Murray for a good portion of that time. It seems like they pushed each other on, and then you've got Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi. It's like if you had you three, Ronnie, Stephen, and yourself all together, probably a good chance you would have all pushed each other on.
I think so, but of course we have, in the era of snooker at the moment, we've had the golden era for many years now, a lot longer than we expected, of Ronnie O'Sullivan, Mark Williams, and John Higgins. And to a large degree, those three have pushed each other to levels. So it's funny. I think maybe they pushed each other to such a level that they've stayed within the game because their standard got so good. And we're all sitting waiting for when they're going to, I mean, I think 48, 49, they're roughly at that age now. Amazing to think they're still playing at high level competition. Somewhere down the line, we're all wondering when they stop doing so well. How does that happen? But at the moment, they've done so well to keep it. They're all three of them in the top 16. It's just astonishing.
Yeah. It is. It's great if you've got a rival that you can.
And they're called the class of '92. I think they all turn perfect. So there's some
like the Man United boys.
So I'll give you. Yeah. So that's one. When Ronnie comes on the show, you can give him the class of '92 maths, not maths.
Okay. Brilliant. Yeah. Well, you know what, Steve? That's a beautiful way to end it, because you said class of '92. I didn't actually know that. I know obviously the class of '92 with Man United players.
Oh, it's the same, yeah.
But guess what? The word numbers comes to in numbers.
Let me think. Could it possibly be '92?
I think you're right.
No way.
There you go, buddy. There you go.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, I've really enjoyed your company. It's been great. I haven't got a clue what you've been talking about, but it's been brilliant.
It's been amazing. I've enjoyed to do a numerical frame of snooker with the legend that is Steve Davis, and snooker frame comes to 140, which is Tom numbers, the quantum. So it's like, okay, I'll take that. That's brilliant. Where can people find you, Steve? You know what? I mean, I think we'll keep in touch. I'd love to have you on again in the future. And where can I want to come, and maybe me and Baz will come. I want to come and see you, playing sometime, music wise.
No, you don't want to. No, you don't. Trust me, Barry doesn't want to do that. His only musical interest is in country and western. He doesn't like our music.
Okay. Well, he can just come and beat up. My brother Joe, he's a big. I mean, I love my music from all eras, but my brother Joe's like an encyclopedia of music. So he just went to a gig just at the weekend. He goes to gigs probably every couple of weeks. He's a big fan. So, are you on any social medias or anything like that, Steve? Yeah,
but I'm getting more and more bored with them by the minute. Originally, BBC set up all of the snooker players' Twitter accounts back in the day when everybody was thinking that was going to be the way that people contacted TV world.
Yeah.
So that you could ask questions on Twitter and it would be along a back line along the bottom of the snooker event and it would be away. So we all got set up with Twitter accounts and that's where the problem started. But I really use social media just for music fun rather than exploiting my snooker.
Okay. Well, if there's any way people can find, we'll put it in. But
but I'm not. Fine. Yeah, but I don't. Nobody. Yeah, I sort of like if you want to find out whether next time I'm DJing, then I'll probably let people know on Twitter.
Got you. Okay.
Struggling to work out how Instagram and TikTok work, and I realised that I've decided to live in the slow lane. I'd rather just
enjoy life.
Sort of. Yeah. But So I was my Twitter handle Steve Snooker.
Okay.
Which I thought was probably a giveaway enough of who it might be until a shooting A Shrewsbury United.
Have you ever thought of going into comedy, Mr. Davis? Bit of stand-up.
A Shrewsbury United fan, I think it was Shrewsbury, contacted me on Twitter where you bastard, or whatever it was, came out and hurled a load of abuse at me. And I realised that it was the Steve Davis from the football world, who was manager. Yeah. I think he was manager of Shrewsbury. I think it was Shrewsbury. And I thought it's nice to see that this Shrewsbury fan has got his finger on the pulse of who his manager is on social media. That he decided to, Steve Snooker. Maybe there's a giveaway. It wasn't Steve Football.
Steve Football. I know. It does beg your belief. Bless them. Some people are out there. Some others do have them, unfortunately. But really last in closing. So I wanted to. You mentioned just as you were saying goodbye. You just talked about contact in regards to social media. We spoke about first contact at the beginning of the show, and you've enjoyed sci-fi. Do you enjoy the Terminator films?
Yeah, I like the idea of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't think Hollywood makes particularly good films, but I preferred. I think Solaris, the Russian film about first contact, was quite interesting. That's a film and a half.
Oh yeah, that was with Cillian Murphy, wasn't it?
I don't think.
No, that was Sunshine. Sorry, Sunshine.
But
Solaris, I think with George Clooney.
Oh, that was the remake, I think. Yeah, but the original one's quite psychedelic. That's quite a nice first contact film.
Yeah,
yeah.
The reason I mention it is so it's a big film for me. I love it. Terminator and Terminator 2 particularly. So John Connor, Sarah Connor. They both come to 126, Snooker Q 126, Steve Davis 126, the Orville 126, And my buddy, Ricky Lambert, former Southampton, England and Liverpool striker. So anyway, we could go on. So
absolute pleasure.
Dave, it's been really brilliant. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. We'll do it again.
Okay. Cheers, up.
Yeah. God bless. Take care, man. Cheers. Bye. Bye.